It's turning into an utter car crash. It sincerely is. Just to repeat, thank you, Chris Hope. Just to repeat this breaking news to you if you're joining us now. It's just shortly after 4 p.m. on this Friday afternoon. The breaking news is this. The Metropolitan Police are carrying out searches related to Lord Mandelson's relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. The Deputy Assistant Commissioner Hayley Stewart of the Metropolitan Police has told us this. I can confirm that officers from the Met's Central Specialist Crime Team are currently in the process of carrying out search warrants at 2 addresses, one in the Wiltshire area and another in the Camden area of London. The searches are related to an ongoing investigation into misconduct in public office offences involving a 72-year-old man. He's not been arrested and inquiries are still ongoing. Clearly, those properties belong to Peter Mandelson, and that 72-year-old man is Peter Mandelson, and the scandal around Mandelson and the Prime Minister just went up a notch. Let's get my next guest in now. I'm speaking with the head of policy at Reform UK. It is Zia Yusuf. Zia, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. This calamity simply gets worse and worse by the hour.
Yeah, and absolutely no sympathy whatsoever. You know, you're hearing a lot about Keir Starmer apparently, grappling with his conscience. You're hearing that from particularly the left-wing press. What conscience? Is that the same conscience Keir Starmer grappled with when he pursued and hounded brave British veterans through the court system, driving one of them in particular to try to kill themselves 3 times? Remember, he was confronted in a hearing, in a committee hearing, when he was told that a farmer had committed suicide and others were considering doing so as a result of his appalling tax raid on them. You saw his response. I thought it was a pretty cold-blooded and awful response. And so I don't think there's much grappling to be done with here. Keir Starmer is only Prime Minister because the Tory vote collapsed at the last general election, because the British public was sick and tired of corruption, betrayal and sleaze. And in fact, Starmer won fewer votes than Corbyn did in both times Corbyn ran. And what have we seen since Starmer became Prime Minister? It's just been one scandal after another. And what's really telling is that Starmer admitted this week, that he knew that Mandelson had continued his close friendship with Epstein, even after Epstein had become a convicted paedophile. I cannot understand anyone watching this program who's ever hired anybody or making a recommendation for hiring somebody. Why on earth would you give anyone a job who has done such a thing, let alone someone giving someone the job of US ambassador, one of only a couple of diplomatic appointments, arguably the most glamorous and prestigious job in politics. So this idea that now he's angry, I think is absolutely outrageous. And by the way, imagine how angry British people are. Most polls now put Labour Party and Keir Starmer at around 16%. How can this country continue to stagger along under this heavy weight of the fact that we have a walloping Labour majority in the House of Commons, that for a party that commands the support of just 16% of the electorate? It's unsustainable. Keir Starmer needs to go, and whoever replaces him must do the honourable thing and call for a general election.
Well, Zia Yusuf, on the politics of that now, we have the Labour Party turning into some kind of circular firing squad. Now, we have Harriet Harman, Baroness Harman, of course, former Deputy Prime Minister, calling Keir Starmer weak and naive. Graham Stringer, the veteran parliamentarian for the Labour Party, in this studio yesterday admitting that Sir Keir Starmer is finished. Liam Byrne says Sir Keir Starmer needs a miracle now. And all the same while, Zia Yusuf, we have the socialist wagons circling around Downing Street, Angela Rayner at the helm, Wes Streeting, Andy Burnham on manoeuvres. We have a political calamity on our hands here.
Your passwords are your passwords, only for your eyes. But how safe is your phone or laptop or tablet? Well, watch this. I press one button and my phone is now shielded from hackers and prying eyes. ExpressVPN is your protector. Yes, you can protect all your passwords fast across multiple devices with ExpressVPN. Premium, fast and highly secure. Get big peace of mind for a low cost. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free, all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your online life today.
That's to put it mildly. Look, it's a matter now of when, not if, Keir Starmer is replaced Does the next Labour leader want to take the catastrophe that is looming in the May elections on their plate or not? Obviously Angela Rayner's wrapped up with all sorts of HMRC stuff. Andy Burnham, poor Andy Burnham, has been locked out by party apparatus. Wes Streeting. I mean, did you see the footage of Wes Streeting in the interviews he gave yesterday? He looked gaunt because I would suspect that the documents that are now going to come out, and this is obviously the next ugly leg of this story, with all of the correspondence, my guess will be that there will be things in there that Wes Streeting that will not present Wes Streeting in the best light. But I want to go back to the original point. It is critical, actually, that when Keir Starmer is replaced, whoever replaces them does the honourable thing and calls for a general election, not least because whoever replaces Keir Starmer will be farther to the left than even Keir Starmer. It's going to be someone that says things like, who cares what the bond market thinks? Who cares about what the bond markets think when they're the ones actually lending Britain money to keep the lights on? Unfortunately, if you're £3 trillion in debt, you do actually need to care about what people lending that money to you are thinking. And so I think we're going to lurch towards a really serious potential economic crisis and funding crisis for the country. I say that with no joy whatsoever. As a patriot, that's the last thing that I want. I know there's so many people struggling in this country, but there is absolutely no mandate for someone to the left of Keir Starmer to come in and take the helm when there isn't even a mandate for Keir Starmer himself. Whoever replaces Starmer must call a general election.
But Zia Yusuf, we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit. I mean, I don't think he's going to go anywhere soon, Keir Starmer. He certainly made that clear in that speech in Hastings yesterday. And isn't it time that we gave him a bit more slack? I mean, when he appointed Peter Mandelson, he on face value, he knew there were issues there with Epstein, but equally, he felt you needed a different candidate for that job to take on the chaotic nature of a Trump presidency. I mean, he knew about trade in the EU. He knew about rich business people having in his private life with his own company and the like. It was a risk worth taking. Yes, it's been found out in the Epstein files and the law and everything else will take its course, but surely you had to think differently back when he was appointed.
Well, this doesn't happen in isolation, does it, Chris? Keir Starmer's entire offering to the electorate was simply, I'm not going to be corrupt and sleazy like the Tories. And then what have we seen since? Remember, it was Lord Alley who was given, one of Labour's biggest donors, given a number 10 Downing Street pass. Then they appointed Ian Caulfield and gave him a cushy job in the Treasury without telling anyone he was a Labour donor. And the things that we've discovered with regards, again, to Mandelson. And remember, everyone needs to remember this. The things that are now in the public domain, I'm guessing are still the tip of the iceberg. We haven't seen WhatsApps, we haven't seen SMS messages. Lord knows what they were saying to each other on the phone. I mean, this is a man who, on the day Jeffrey Epstein was released from prison for sex offences against minors, sent him an email saying, and I quote, Liberation Day. It is disgusting on a totally different level. And remember, this was Starmer's only offering to the electorate that this sort of thing would not happen. And there's been endless other scandals, Sue Gray. I mean, we could go on and on. We haven't got the time, Chris. So, no, I'm afraid there's absolutely no sympathy for Starmer whatsoever. Let's not forget, Starmer has also managed to find, in amongst all these scandals, he has been productive enough to find the time to cancel elections for millions of people, drive farmers to suicide, and withdraw the right to jury trials. So, by the way, which he did not have an electoral mandate for. None of those things were in Labour's manifesto. So no, Chris, I'm afraid with the best will in the world, there's absolutely no sympathy for me from Starmer, and not really from the British people either, given the latest polling put him at 16%. Let's see what that polling shows next week.
Okay, Zia Yusuf, just to read a message out here. Lord Mandelson has previously denied wrongdoing related to Jeffrey Epstein, saying, I was never culpable or complicit in his crimes, and like everyone else, I learned the actual truth about him after his death. He also said he relied on assurances of his innocence that turned out later to be horrendously false. Zia Yusuf, I want to get back to the political drama here. There are some Starmer loyalists today. They seem convinced that this can be dealt with by getting rid of Morgan McSweeney. There's a lot of talk that it was Morgan McSweeney who was more influential in making the appointment of Lord Mandelson, the former Lord Mandelson, than Keir Starmer. This was outsourced, if you like, and in that sense, the forensic Keir Starmer didn't fully turn his attention to that. Will it be enough from your point of view if Morgan Sweeney bites the bullet?
Of course not. Look, the only reason Labour is so focused on Morgan McSweeney is because he is the practitioner of the dark arts who serves at the behest of Keir Starmer. Again, we shouldn't forget this is all connected. So Morgan McSweeney was Peter Mandelson's protege, right? Morgan McSweeney was Peter Mandel's protege. And by the way, Peter Mandelson's nickname has long been, for as long as I can remember, been the Prince of Darkness, by the way, which makes the whole thing even more ridiculous. The idea that Starmer didn't know this was not a man to make ambassador. So the reason why all the Labour MPs are baying now to get Morgan McSweeney fired, as they have numerous times before, is once McSweeney goes, a bit like Dominic Cummings, I think, for Boris Johnson, he's left extremely isolated and somebody who I think does a lot of the dirty work in politics that Starmer's relied upon to even get him this far, by the way. And by the way, was basically installed. I mean, look, Keir Starmer is basically an installation into number 10 Downing Street by Morgan McSweeney and Labour together. So that's why they're going for him. It is a matter of time before he goes. And once he goes, again, it's just a matter of time, whether it's now, whether it's May. As Nigel said, look, I agree with Nigel from a reforms perspective. We'd probably prefer him to stay until May. But look, ultimately, it is crystal clear. Starmer, I don't think Starmer will be Prime Minister by next year. The betting markets already suggest that's the case. But I want to emphasise again, there is no mandate for whomever comes after Starmer from the electorate. Labour is polling at an astonishingly low level for an incumbent government so soon, and whoever that replacement is must call a general.
Zia Yusuf, could I also ask you about the fact that Nigel Farage, today the Reform UK leader, has written to the investigations unit, the police, if you like, at the European Union, because, of course, Peter Mandelson was a trade ambassador, a commissioner over there for 4 years. And I think now the investigation needs to go much wider than just what happened between him and Jeffrey Epstein, and never mind the privileged information that could have made billions or millions of pounds, dollars, whatever, for anybody with access to information before the poker cards were laid of that Euro bailout. There's that. But also, this would go back to Lord Mandelson's time in Brussels.
Exactly. And that's why, that statement from Peter Mandelson, which I appreciate, you're obliged to read out as a broadcaster. But, nobody's arguing that Peter Mandelson engaged in Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. What people are arguing, and this is in the public domain, there is prima facie evidence in the extreme here, that Peter Mandelson gave Jeffrey Epstein privileged information about the €500 billion bailout and the resignation of Gordon Brown, just to name a few things, by the way. There's also the lobbying around bankers' bonuses, any number of things given to a man who obviously ran large amounts of money for clients as well and traded in global markets. That information could have made Epstein enormous amounts of money. My guess is it probably did. So that is why the police are already involved, and why Nigel's absolutely right to call for that investigation from the EU as well. And if you actually read, I mean, people are busy, right? People watching this show, they don't have the time. But I've spent a decent amount of time looking through the horrors of these emails on the Justice Department's website. There are so many emails where Mandelson is openly trying to find any possible way to monetize his preferred access at the heart of the British government. And, what Mandelson also represents is everything that is wrong with the British establishment. It's why trust in politics, forget about Keir Starmer, trust in politicians is so low. It's why I have disdain myself for the political establishment. They're not all as bad as Mandelson, but there's a lot who I think are of varying degrees close to him. But the bottom line is, if you look at the prima facie evidence, I personally think Mandelson is going to go to jail. But again, the buck stops with the executive. Keir Starmer had more than enough information to have not made him US ambassador, and Starmer must go.
Zia Yusuf, thank you very much for joining us on this dramatic day. Again, is there ever a quiet day in British politics? Astonishing stuff. Zia Yusuf, thank you for your time this afternoon. I sincerely appreciate it. Let's go back to the studio now for a quick bit of reaction. Chris